people don't realize the heavy federal subsidies that have gone into nuclear power to keep it going, and probably nowhere as impressive as in the taxpayer getting stuck with the burden of the long-term storage of nuclear waste. I just read this report about the new reactor that just opened in Tennessee, and it was a long story in the Washington Post, but never was there a mention of the cost of and the challenge of the long-term storage of the waste that these plants are producing. So if you don't mind, I'd like to just touch on, now that the plant is closed, what are we looking at? They say 60 years they can leave the plant sit there. We already know that there has been radioactive leaks underneath the plant. What are we looking at moving forward, and why do citizens need to remain informed?
The plants, all of them, every single one in the country is leaking radiation. The industry claims that tritium just passes through the body in 50, 60 days and passes through like water. But data, scientific data, has proved that for 15 years, it's been proven, in fact, that tritium crosses the placental barrier, and it really impacts cells and organs in our bodies. And the tritium at Vermont Yankee, for example, moves faster, migrates faster towards the Connecticut River and towards the aquifer, whereas the other radioactive isotopes that have already been uncovered, and Entergy didn't test for a lot, cesium, which is a bone seeker, cesium, which is a muscle seeker, strontium, which is a bone seeker, and cobalt are migrating more slowly, but they follow the same path as tritium. All those radioactive isotopes are there, moving towards the river, moving towards the aquifer. And if the carcass sits there for 60 years, those leaks of non-existent buried and underground pipes, because that's what Entergy claimed to the legislature, that they never had any pipes and they lied under oath. But they did. That came out when the tritium leak was brought forward at the State House. Yes. So those buildings remaining there means the tritium continues to leak. All this radioactivity seeps into our waters, our land, our river.
And what's the danger of these materials? Because people hear this word, but they don't realize how it impacts on them. Can you talk about them being cancer-causing?
Yeah. The downstream is the Connecticut River. And if we clean it up now, a lot of that radiation won't make it to the Connecticut River. If we wait 60 years, it will. And the costs are going to be higher. And what has concerned all of us in the nuclear industry, supporting the public, is that Vermont Yankee can just walk away. They said they would walk away after 60 years, leaving us with all the real cleanup costs to clean up that whole site. So I've been saying now for years, to clean it up now is actually cheaper than letting that radiation run.
Is our groundwater, am I correct to understand that it's really Entergy who is responsible for checking the groundwater and reporting back, not our state officials?
The state, Entergy has the monitoring wells, Entergy does the initial testing. What our oversight at many, many nuclear plants in our testimony, many plants across the country shows none of them know what they're releasing. None of them have an accurate tracking of what they're doing. We've seen plants where one plant had, at a site, had 0 releases, claimed it had 0 releases, and then 2 more plants were added to that site, so 3 plants, and they're still claiming they have 0 releases. And the NRC looks at that and says, well, they checked the box, they turned their report in, so it must be true.
So the federal regulators depend on the honesty of the corporation regarding the sampling. So we really don't know what's happening with the groundwater necessarily, but one thing seems clear, that a faster decommissioning can help avoid some potential problems
Robbie
in the future.
caught this in the film. The Vermont has a concerned citizenry that some other sites don't, but some do. And it's probably the town hall model. We have a participatory democracy here that the film really tries to pick up on. And because of that, we've been a thorn in Entergy's side for a long time. We're smarter than the average bear. And so the people in Vermont were really a significant cause in the shutdown of the plant. Entergy would like to claim it was only about money, but in fact, a smart citizenry helped to close the plant and will help to monitor that plant moving forward.
And I think that's what Power Struggle's about. You know, I love the name because it's a struggle not just about the source for energy or how to look for energy, but what the people's right is, and the tussle between the military-industrial complex and people who don't want their land polluted, and they want to raise their children in a safe environment. And Robbie's captured that, and he's captured that it takes all of these people coming together to make their voices heard.
Yeah, I would say Power Struggle is a film about democracy in action. It's about whether people's voices will be heard against big moneyed interests.
Right.
And it's about what people in our local area are doing for a safe and sustainable energy future.
Yeah, which is why the screening on Thursday, November 3rd is going to be so important, I think, because...
At the Latchis Theatre.
At the Latchis
at 7
Theatre.
o'clock.
At 7 o'clock p.m., because we're looking at a presidential election, and a lot is in play next year on this issue. We've got a number of bills supported by our Vermont delegation that would give the community more say in the decommissioning process, give the community more say in nuclear waste storage. I understand that the industry itself is facing a crisis in terms of where to put the nuclear waste, so they are pushing for changes right now. The question is, will citizens be involved? And I think that's why it's so important to take a look back at the past. That's what Power Struggle does, look at the fight that's been going on and give us all as a community an opportunity to come together and talk about where we're going with this thing.
And I think Power Struggle also is inspirational because it shows people around the country what's coming up for them. Right now, 6 nuclear plants have shut down and 99 remain. And of those 99, 20 are on life support, badgering and lobbying for more taxpayer subsidies to allow them to continue operating. And what people do, their participation in this, we're a model to show them how to raise their voices and say they don't want their tax dollars to go to that. They don't want to keep an old leaking plant, you know, impacting their environment. There's a city in Illinois where the whole city water has been so contaminated that they have to be on bottled water and pumpers in for the whole city from a nuclear plant that's leaked into their water supply and contaminated everything. Do we want that in Vermont? Do other cities want that? No, but that's what's happening if people don't step in.
And the Nuclear Regulatory Commission will let them get away with it unless there's an active population. Robbie's film shows that. I mean, citizens were in the NRC's face, and that's what it takes to get action out of an agency that's really a lapdog.
And I think that, again, this movement here in Vermont has reverberations nationally.
Absolutely.
And one of the people I filmed in the film is Senator Bernie Sanders.
That's right.
And I filmed him several years before he announced his campaign for the Democratic nomination for president. It was a rally in April of 2012, a month after the 40-year license expired, at a rally right here in Brattleboro on the Commons. And what I thought was remarkable about what he said then was putting this struggle right here in Brattleboro, right here in Vermont, in a national and even international context.
That's right. Yes, I remember that. Well, let's show the audience a clip of that, and then we can wrap up this discussion. But it is important to go to Bernie Sanders because as a U.S. Senator, he has the power to rewrite some of these laws in the year ahead. And as we know, many of these laws will be rewritten in the year ahead because the industry needs them to be rewritten, and the industry is pushing for it. And whether or not citizens have a voice is up to each one of us. Let's go to Bernie
The
Sanders.
what many of you are working on is one of the great struggles of our time, to create an energy future which protects not only our generation, but a safe energy future for our kids and our grandchildren. That's what we're talking about. What we are also talking about is the need to transform our energy system away from nuclear power, away from fossil fuel, into energy efficiency and into sustainable energy. In Vermont, if we shut down Vermont Yankee, if we move to energy efficiency, if we are aggressive about wind, solar, geothermal, biomass, and other emerging sustainable technologies, this small state can lead America in a new energy direction and lead the world in that direction.